there are plenty of people who are like, is Disney going to scrap the sequel trilogy? Are Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau going to rewrite it and do it differently? You know, because that's how you get clicks on the internet.
No, it happened on screen. It's in Star Wars.
Okay.
We're not going to George Lucas the whole thing. Hi, I'm Matt with No Market Media.
And I'm Randall. Today, Matt and I are finally getting into the Book of Boba Fett, but it's been out for more than a week, so we're going to be talking spoilers. So don't be surprised if you haven't seen it that we ruin it for you.
Go see it.
Go watch it first, or if you don't care, go ahead and watch the spoilers. Whatever works for you. The point is spoilers. Book of Boba Fett stars Tamura Morrison, Ming-Na Wen, and Pedro Pascal. It was created by Jon Favreau, who is also co-creator of The Mandalorian with Dave Filoni. He's very well known for his work as a director, writer, and producer in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you like this sort of stuff, make sure you give this video a like. Those likes help us out. If you want to see more, subscribe to the channel. And if you always want to know when we're uploading videos, ring the bell icon.
Now, the Book of Boba Fett picks up right after the end credit scene in Season 2 of The Mandalorian, with Boba Fett now in control of Jabba's palace and assuming control of Tatooine's underworld. Through flashbacks, we also see how Boba escaped the Sarlacc pit and the series of events that immediately followed. It has received mixed reviews from both critics and audiences.
So, for me, I felt like this series, it's 7 episodes for the first series, just had a lot of filler. There's a lot of stuff here that's not really about Boba Fett. That's other things that are going on. And it's like, all right, in some cases, you're like, oh, that's fine, we're filling out stuff. But really, it's called the Book of Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
He's the main character. He's the person we're supposed to really be worrying about and talking about. And, you know, and I just didn't get a lot of that in here.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's part of the mix. And, you know, maybe we'll get into this more specifically with characters. But a lot of the fans of Boba Fett want to just see him be a badass. They were real happy in Season 2 of The Mandalorian when he shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like a madman, you know? That made fans really happy. And I just didn't feel like this series delivered on that very well.
Yeah. I also had some mixed things or feelings about the Book of Boba Fett. I enjoyed the series, but at the same time, too, I think there's some things about, like, Boba, you know, the Book of Boba Fett, I would have liked to seen gone a little bit deeper and explored a little bit more, and I guess a little bit more focused. I would say generally the Book of Boba Fett, instead of feeling like a one-off, like, hey, we're just focused on the Boba Fett, it really does feel like an extension of, like, The Mandalorian.
It's funny you should mention The Mandalorian, because, I mean, by the time this series ends, it's basically just The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the thing, too. I think, especially with, like, the end, because it's one thing if we have, like, the Mandalorian show up in, like, one episode and it's, like, one specific... It's kind of like, you know, like a comic book. Like, comic book series, we often see that where we have, like, crossovers and, like, another comic book character comes in for, like, things of a set. But for this, for it to be, like, 2 episodes that are heavy Mando-focused, and then, you know, such a big role that the characters from The Mandalorian play in that final episode, that I really, like, readjusted my view of this as, like, hey, this is an extension of kind of, like, The Mandalorian with Boba Fett stuff near the beginning. Okay, so with the plot and stuff, the first, I guess I would say, main thing is, like, you know, Boba Fett, you know, we see him at the end of The Mandalorian, you know, taking over Jabba's palace. Well, what does that mean? You know, is he really going to rule and stuff? Are people going to agree with him ruling? Are they going to pay him tribute? Just because you take out Jabba or whatever, or sit on Jabba's throne, doesn't mean that everyone's going to treat you like Jabba the Hutt. And so at the beginning of this show, this series, it's kind of like looking at, like, what does Boba have to go through from that? And also, like I mentioned in the intro, like, how did Boba actually get out of that Sarlacc pit that we see in Return of the Jedi?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to talk about a different part of the plot entirely, honestly. The subplot of, well, I guess the first subplot, because we have multiple subplots going on here, of like the backstory of what happens after the Sarlacc pit and everything. And I knew that going in, they weren't necessarily going to have to tell that story because it takes place after season 2 of The Mandalorian. He's already out of the pit. Yep. They don't have to really go back and explain it.
Yep.
But they did. Spoilers, Randall is not a big Boba Fett fan. Like, the character in general, I think they should have left him dead. I just want to get that out there. But, this plot of him doing dances with the Last Samurai to rehabilitate his character was awful. I didn't like it at all. Like, it's just like, I'm like, if you're going to bring Boba Fett back, which I ardently disagree with the decision to bring Boba Fett back, bring him back as a ruthless, vengeful bounty hunter. But it's Disney. And like, no, we need to make money. We need to rehabilitate his character. We need him to be a good guy.
Yep. We
need him to be more like the Mandalorian because that's made us a lot of money. And I found that part of the plot just annoying because it's the white savior, I'm going to be a better person because I learned your culture, Tusken Raidens, like if you're going to do it better or don't do it at all.
Yep. And I agree with you on it because I think that is kind of like the structure. Like, well, I get we're trying to make Boba Fett kind of like the hero, I guess, or kind of, the good guy. So how do we do it? We actually got to make him a good guy. Which is kind of interesting. I think they could have taken a different approach. And that's one of the things I said I wish they would have gone more in depth on and different stuff. Not necessarily like his transition from like the Boba we knew to like this new Boba Fett. And then also wondering like, hey, is Boba Fett really new or is he really the killer that he's always been kind of thing? So
and they ever so slightly try and touch on that when a completely different spoiler character shows up. Capping! Some guy in a hat. Like, it's not enough. It's not enough character to go off of. And we'll talk about that when we get to characters.
Yep.
And the plot suffers for it because I'm sitting there like wondering to myself, there's this whole storyline about how he cares so much about Mos Espa and Tatooine but why? And like, is it because of his time with the Tuskens? Well, then he should be caring about the Tuskens that are still around, not all these human and other whatever alien races that live on Tatooine. So that was distracting to the plot too.
Yeah. I guess it's just saying, like, he's done being the lone wolf and now has to have, like, a pack. And I guess his pack, Tuskens were killed off. So now he's got to build his new thing. And the new thing, I guess, is his...
Power Rangers.
His Power Rangers. His empire and everything. Yeah. We'll get to the Power Rangers and characters.
Just get ready for it. Boba Fett's not a very interesting character. I know in Clone Wars and, he has stuff that goes on with Cad Bane and everything as a young kid and, that's kind of filling in stuff. But, like, the Boba Fett from the movies, the ruthless bounty hunter who hunts down Han Solo, helps Darth Vader capture Luke, and is killed in Return of the Jedi, just isn't a lot to go off of, So instead, they fill the character roster with all these other characters, other fan favorite characters. All right, throw the Mandalorian in there and give him stuff. Ahsoka Tano shows up. Luke Skywalker shows up. Cad Bane shows up. All these other fan favorites. Black Strand. A Wookiee shows up that everyone knows about who is not, that, like, if you're a Star Wars fan, like, oh yeah, that guy. To offset Boba's deficiencies as a character, they have to throw in all this other fan service characters because there's just not enough to go around.
So kind of like first going on with like Boba Fett thing, that's one of the things I wish we deeper dive and kind of going on and talk about those other characters that we see and stuff too. So we get kind of like a lot of flashbacks. We see like, oh, there's Boba Fett when, he's like looking out and seeing his dad go when he's on Kamino, and like, oh, we see Boba Fett when, Jango Fett dies kind of thing and stuff. We get those like little flashback stuff. I don't think we really like go deep enough or whatever. I guess I would have said like him like dealing with the Hutts, or really like you were saying before, like why is Boba like personally
invested
changed
in
and stuff, or
Tatooine?
why is he? It's almost been like his adoptive home, I guess, because he worked under Jabba for a while, and now he's going stuff like that, and we do get some little hints of like how he viewed his like previous life, I guess I would say, with how he talks with Fennec Shand and how he talks to Black Chrysanthemum. But the other time too, it just, I don't know, I guess I would have seen with like Boba Fett's character, I wish I would have seen more of like, I don't know, this is bad to say, like The Sopranos or whatever, something like that. Really would like to have seen him be like the real like, crime boss kind of thing. And like as you were saying before, Disney, I think a lot of people, like you said, wanted to see Boba Fett be that like badass all the time that they saw in season 2, where a lot of this show we see him like do small fights and then have to spend a bunch of time in the bacta tank, and so convenient that he's done with the bacta tank by the time we get to the end, so that we were really like sparingly showing Boba Fett be that. So if you haven't seen this yet, first, if you haven't seen it yet, why are you watching us talk about it?
How did you get this far into this
review of it, or? But I mean, if you haven't, I mean, yeah, you're not gonna really see that be a Boba Fett all the time.
Yeah, no, you're definitely not. And after seeing the Mandalorian season 2 and like how effective of a fighter he can be, and then like after this one, he just after every little skirmish has to go like lay in a bacta tank for all night long.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a really bad decision. I mean, I get that that's like where he's going through like the flashbacks with the Tusken Raiders and everything. It just didn't make a lot of sense after having seen what we already saw.
Yep.
Basically. Outside of his armor, being, a stormtrooper smashing madman who can dish it out, as much as he can take it.
Yep.
Who did not need to go rest in a bacta tank after that. Just me, I guess.
Yep. Now, kind of going on one of the other things you're talking about, we have these other established characters that we introduced. Mando, we talked about, Ahsoka, Luke Skywalker. One I want to look at, which I wish we would have gotten earlier and actually gone in more, because I think it would have helped build the Boba Fett character more, and that is Cad Bane.
Oh, yes. He should have showed up earlier.
I will tell you, I was so excited when I saw Cad Bane going. But it's because I've seen the Clone Wars and stuff. For someone who hasn't seen like the Clone Wars, if you see Cad Bane, he still works because it's like, all right, he fits kind of what we're going with this. He isn't a good. I wouldn't say good. He's bad, but he is someone really good for Boba Fett to go against, kind of thing, like a good hero. But if we go on with backstory, like the more that there is like Boba growing up in Cad Bane, and if we were to really go into the whole like I guess rivalry between Cad Bane and Jango Fett, and then when Jango Fett died, Cad Bane taking the mantle of the best bounty hunter, and Boba Fett working to get that back.
Title, yeah.
That would have been more interesting. We could have really built more of Boba Fett with Cad Bane. So I'm disappointed that we just get him for the last couple episodes.
Number one, I agree 100% with what Matt's saying. Cad Bane's character means a lot more to Boba Fett than you ever get from the series, even in the last episode when they finally have it out.
Mm-hmm.
But there are plenty of people who are like, is Disney gonna scrap the sequel trilogy? Are Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau gonna rewrite it and do it differently? Because that's how you get clicks on the internet.
No, it happened on screen. It's in Star Wars.
Okay.
We're not gonna George Lucas the whole thing.
Why don't they just say the Book of Boba Fett season 1 did not happen, and then just now we can tell the story that's more personal about Boba Fett and Cad Bane.
Mm-hmm.
That's your story, Disney.
Yep.
That's your story.
It's kind of interesting, too, with, like, Cad Bane, we do get, like, a little hints, I guess, from people in the know where, Cad Bane does mention Jango Fett, but doesn't go into anything.
You've got your father's blood pumping through your veins.
And, Fennec Shan does have a line to Boba Fett where he's like, oh, no, you're taking this personally kind of thing. Don't do a duel with Cad Bane here.
Yes.
But, everyone's thinking like, okay, if you've never seen Clone Wars, you don't know that there's anything to those lines. It's up to, like, Star Wars nerds like me that know different stuff to be like, oh, ooh, they mean stuff. Or
That's so exciting.
yeah, it's so exciting. Or different things like there was gonna be a storyline, so this isn't canon because it didn't actually play out. They did like pre-animation for it, but didn't actually come out screen. The whole idea of like Boba Fett's dent in like his helmet was gonna be from Cad Bane, and we get a wink and a nod to how that happened when Cad Bane's hat comes off. You see a plate on his head. Original was gonna be as that, not quite a draw, but like Boba Fett and Cad Bane kind of like take each other out or whatever in a duel. So even though that isn't really canon, at least when they did this, it's kind of like a wink and nod to fans, like, did it happen or did it not happen? Maybe kind of thing.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right, and then on the flip side of all of the fan favorite characters, okay, you have all of these new characters which are bad for the most part. Not every single one of them are bad, but like, we gotta talk about the Power Rangers.
Yep, the Power Rangers.
They're the whatever, the mods or whatever.
Yep.
I think they call themselves. It's interesting, like the concept of this kind of youth culture on Tatooine, and how there's no jobs because the syndicate is more or less, is it syndicate? Do they call it the syndicate? The Spice Runners. The spice must flow, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The Pikes. That's
the Pikes
the
Syndicate.
Pike Syndicate.
Yes, so they do call it the Syndicate. Yep, the Pikes.
And how they've taken the jobs away and like there's nothing for them to do. Oh, come work for me then, Boba Fett says. And then they're all on these really weird speeder bikes. And I'll just say, I didn't particularly like it, but I will defend something.
Mm-hmm.
There's a scene in here which is the slowest speeder bike speed chase scene that I've ever seen, and I thought to myself the entire time, because a lot of fans, I had watched it after other people, and I saw lots of people complain about it, like, oh, this is bad, and I'm like, it's edited badly. But if you guys saw this in Rebels when Ezra was doing this almost exact same scene, you'd go crazy. You'd be like, that's awesome. It's just because these characters aren't good.
Yeah.
It's not the scene, it's not the bikes, it's not the slowness or the way it's edited. It's just that the characters don't work.
Yeah, I would say that too. I think the exception to the rule of like new characters that we see in this that are actually good might be the I don't know what you want to say, emissary or whatever. Basically the Twi'lek or whatever for the
Major Domo.
Yeah.
I
think really as a new character that's not pre-established other stuff, or at least
he's fun.
Not that I know of. He's kind of fun. But yeah, the other ones are kind of throwaway characters. To me, the side characters that I like are the side characters that we already established in The Mandalorian. Like Cobb Vanth. He is a good character and stuff and goes with this. Even the whatever you want to say, the person that helps Mando build his ship and get his ship or whatever.
She's awesome.
She is awesome in this one. I think I might actually like her better in this one than The Mandalorian.
In The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett did not go through the page. It didn't earn it. Mm-hmm. She's there for like an episode, and they kind of feel out like this is their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not that important yet. She comes back, and the relationship grows. In this one, with a lot of the side characters that are going on, you don't get that. There's no like real feeling out of it. It's just, I need you, you need me, and I guess because the plot says so, these characters need to be important.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a disservice to the idea of those characters. But also, like you said, the characters who are interesting are the characters who are pre-established. Fennec Shan's, a more interesting character because she's pre-established. Cad Bane's a more interesting character because he's pre-established. Luke Skywalker, Ahsoka, just insert already established characters here. Should have went with that. You didn't need a whole bunch of new characters.
Or one thing I would have liked to, if we did new characters, I go back to like my Sopranos comment. If we really dove into like, hey, these other players that are also trying to, fill the hole.
Power vacuum.
If we really went more into that, I think we were kind of starting that, especially with like the huts and stuff. Like that stuff was interesting. but then the Hutts are very minimal for maybe like 2 episodes, 2 episodes, and they're gone. And then it's like, oh no, it's the Pike Syndicate, and now we're gonna focus everything on the Pike Syndicate. I would have been more interesting to have the story of, you know, like a family fighting to who is control of the family or whatever. Oh, if you're gonna do kind of like a mob boss thing, I think you go full in mob boss.
Yes, this kind of goes in. All right, we're not gonna go mob boss because he's gonna be a good guy who's protecting Mos Espa instead of just trying to rule Mos Espa. And yeah, go full in.
Go full
in. You know.
All right, for this show, I feel is like a space western with maybe a bit of mob drama in it, a little bit of mob drama. To me, I think the overall part of it is like the aesthetic, and I really like going back with like the characters. I think the 2 characters that really help seal like the western or space western feel to me is our Cobb Vanth and our Cad Bane. Kind of like the duels that we get from them and the different stuff. I mean, I am glad they brought Cad Bane in here, not just because of what his character means for Boba Fett, but because I think it really fits that Western aesthetic too. I feel like as a character to take from other pieces of Star Wars and bring it back, I think his makes the most sense. And I think it works with it.
To be fair, you do know, because Matt knows, that the entire character of Cad Bane is based on the very classic film The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yep.
Or whatever. His character is just like plucked out and turned blue. Basically.
And that's why I feel like he fits in at least like that feel. If you're going with like space western and stuff, and it's Tatooine. I'm sorry, anytime it takes place on Tatooine. I know a lot of people are like, oh, we've done Tatooine to death or whatever. I think there's still interesting things that we can do with Tatooine and some other things that we could have dove deeper into that I was a little disappointed that we actually didn't dive into.
I have had enough of Tatooine. I'm in the other camp. I'm just like, can we get off of desert planets? Just, Jakku shows up and you're just like, oh, it's Tatooine. And then like episode 7, no, she lives on Jakku. What? You do know that you have a very famous other desert planet in the series, right?
Jakku's Tatooine by another name, and Starkiller Base is just the Death Star by another name.
Anyway, so that gets me to my point about genre. It's Star Wars, okay? Mm-hmm. It's Star Wars.
Yep.
I wish they would have leaned a little bit more into the Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yes, it would have been interesting to see a different take, a different story with the mob boss stuff with Cad Bane and everything, like Boba Fett. But they could have definitely leaned more into the sci-fi aspects of Star Wars than they did. You get a little bit of it with like the Naboo starfighter stuff. And is it Anakin's Naboo starfighter? Honestly, I don't care. Couldn't care less. But it makes sense for the Mandalorian that he would want a pre-Empire non-transponder ship.
Yep.
Do I care if it's Anakin's? No, I don't. But like that kind of stuff, that Star Wars stuff, I would have liked to see more of it. Not necessarily for fan service, just because it makes sense in service of the story.
Yep.
Boba Fett ship, slave one. I would have thought that would have been more important near the end, but no, a Rancor comes out instead. And I'm like, the Rancor fighting the droids, the leftover like droid stuff was cool.
Yep.
Fun scene to watch.
Yep.
But I was like, you have a starship parked at the same place the Rancor is.
Yep.
So yeah, I would like to see a little bit more Star Wars. Star. I don't know. Star Wars. In my Star Wars.
I did think the Rancor stuff was cool or whatever, and they were kind of went into it.
But it's stupid.
I do like that we did give the slave one like one little moment to shine when they're actually. I don't know. The whole premise is kind of weird that you'd be right at the Sarlacc with
looking down
with the slave one, but we get the coolest sound in all of Star Wars, in my opinion.
Don't push my buttons.
I love that. For that part, I thought that was really cool.
It was a neat scene, but it wasn't the moment it should have shot. Just show up at the final battle with your starship
Mm-hmm.
and blow the droids away.
Mm-hmm.
Would it have been as cool to watch as a a Rancor fighting the droids? No, it wouldn't have been as cool to watch. Would it have made more sense? Yes. Yes, it would have. All right, so for me, the thing I didn't see coming was very surprising how sloppy and quick the editing seems to be on the show. And I don't know if it was COVID related.
Mm-hmm.
There's a chance that some of this is just like, hey, we have this limited time to film, or we have to all of these restrictions to film that make it harder to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I just got that feeling like Disney didn't put the money in that they should have for the scale that was necessary. Near the end, you have this huge shootout on like one of the two major, cities of Tatooine, Mos Espa,
Mm-hmm.
and there's like 20 people, not including the Pikes, obviously, but all in all, there's 40 people on this side versus 20 people on this side, and like the city's full of people.
Yeah.
Where are all of the people?
They're all inside. Oh, maybe they're trying to go for like one of those like old Western feels. Like it's always that small little,
Yeah,
group
if it's
while
a shootout,
everyone's inside and
this
stuff.
isn't a shootout. This is a battle. Like it just seemed a little weird. I thought that, and when I talk about sloppy editing, I mean there's a scene in the last episode. The last episode's the worst offender in my opinion, where the Wookiee character, Black Krrsantan, there's a scene where he's like getting helped back behind the speeder as they're getting shot at,
Mm-hmm.
and like his ankle is snapped, and I mean snapped, and I'm like, holy crap, he's taking a ton of damage. Like he's walking on his femur,
Mm-hmm.
not femur, that's the wrong bone. He's walking on his ankle bone, like literally on it, and then I'm like, and he did have a bad time a little earlier on, but then later in that scene when they're running away still, it's fixed. And I'm like, oh, it wasn't on purpose. Whoops.
He does have some pretty awesome scenes in that fight too. That dude, he takes like an axe to the back.
It's a good.
And is still going
Okay,
or whatever.
Does Wookiee armor? Does it like attract the blaster fire? Is it like magnetic to the blaster fire? Is that how armor works in Star Wars? Is that why no one can actually shoot the Mandalorian or Boba Fett without hitting the armor?
So that was one thing. It was interesting you talk about that scene. There's a scene in there where both Boba Fett and the Mandalorian are taking all those blaster fires, and that's something that always kind of got me in some other scenes. It's like, dude, they're like freaking like RoboCop. At least in this scene or whatever, like they're kind of like going back by the blast and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like, holy crap! Like, well, how are they ever gonna get taken out? Kind of thing. Really, I guess you gotta take that helmet off.
I guess what the thing is, like their armor is also seemingly unaffected, unfazed. Like, so if you're getting hit by the kineticness of a blast, and that hurts, obviously. It's the same concept with our body armor today, Kevlar and stuff. You're still gonna feel it, but it won't kill you. It'll stop it. But like our Kevlar gets damaged. Like their armor comes out like unscathed. Like how many shots can it take?
Yep.
I mean, seriously. I'm curious.
Yep. So for me, the thing that I didn't see coming, we've already talked about this before. So we see Mando in here. And I assumed, you know what, we're probably going to see Mando in the show. I really did not expect not one, but 2 episodes to primarily be focused on Mando and continuing Din Djarin's story. So if for people who are fans of The Mandalorian, I feel like if you're excited about season 3, you have to watch
yes.
the Book of Boba Fett, or you're gonna start season 3 like what did I miss?
Here? What
did I miss?
Here?
So yeah, you really gotta see that. Now, granted, they are my 2 favorite episodes of the Book of Boba Fett, and I think that's kind of, I don't know, it's sad a little bit. Like I enjoyed it. I had fun watching those. And yes, I fanboyed over all of the moments. Cad Bane, Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka talking a little bit about Anakin stuff. Yes, I was all into all that stuff. Loved it. Darksaber stuff too. I loved it all. But at the same time too, I also made me feel a little bit bad for like the rest of the show. Where I go back to my point. I really think they could have gone more in, but I understand, what's Star Wars for, kind of thing. Like it's really not for a lot of the stuff that I would want to see on it. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but okay, so the Darksaber, you can say you fanboyed out or you had a good time about that as a fan.
Mm-hmm.
But the legwork's been put in through Clone Wars and Rebels to make it work. To make it work inside of the Mandalorian, storyline.
Yep.
And like Matt was saying though, like I didn't see coming that I texted Matt or whatever, our group chat, and I was like, that was a mighty fine episode of The Mandalorian I just watched.
Yep.
I'm like, it's just, it took away from the story, the Book of Boba Fett though.
Yeah.
And it does it twice, 2 straight episodes that are just Mandalorian episodes.
Yep.
Really. So that's disappointing.
Well, I think that's the thing too. We've had 2 seasons of The Mandalorian, and I think one of the things is we've done a lot of 2.5 now, 2.5. But we've done a lot of legwork on that character and like those characters, some of the other characters that we've seen and stuff too. So, for a Book of Boba Fett show, that's the legwork that I really wanted to see with the Book of Boba Fett, and that's the thing too. That's why those 2 episodes work so well. Is because we have all that stuff. I don't know that I come away at the end of like the very end of this series, like the last episode, and feel that Boba Fett is to a point, kind of thing like where the show was.
Where do we go with him?
Yeah.
And I off camera, Morrison's have had interviews where he's like, hey, I'd love to go after Mace Windu because I got a score to settle with him, and I'm like, your new version of Boba Fett is never going to do that. He's not that person anymore.
No, he's not.
So, like, you couldn't go... Like, that's what you needed before.
Yep.
Like, if you were going to tell the Cad Bane stories, if you were going to tell go after Mace Windu assuming he's alive, because everyone's alive now, stories. But now that this character is where he is, you can't do that anymore. He's not going to be able to do it.
Something drastic would have to change.
Time travel. So, in conclusion, I think it is a little bit too heavy on fan service, and that a lot of the characters, the side characters especially, just do not work. Unfortunately, there's just not enough substance to the Boba Fett character. I say unfortunately, I'm okay with it, because I called this years ago. Not enough substance to the Boba Fett character to make a really compelling Boba Fett-centric storyline. So, I mean, people are like, oh, is there going to be a Book of Boba Fett season 2? I don't know. Probably, because money. But, but should there be? I just don't know that there's a lot of place to go with the character.
I liked a lot of parts of the Book of Boba Fett. Not necessarily like the whole like season as a whole. I think it's okay. It's Star Wars. I love Star Wars. More Star Wars, yeah. I'll enjoy it or whatever. But I think some of other like Dave Filoni stuff, kind of looking like Rebels or whatever. I think Rebels has some really good parts. They're some of my favorite parts of Star Wars. I think Book of Boba Fett has some moments and stuff that I really liked. Cad Bane stuff. I liked the 2 episodes of The Mandalorian that were in the Book of Boba Fett. And I like that we had characters, like Black Chrysanthemum in this too. I enjoyed that kind of stuff. So for me, that's kind of what I look at. Like, yeah, this is really just an extension of the Mandalorian. And there was some elements in there that I really enjoyed.
Should have just made Mandalorian season 3. Then Boba Fett could show up and start doing some of the legwork necessary to give him his own story.
Yup.
Write this down, Disney.
Randall and I, we want to know what you guys thought of the Book of Boba Fett. Did you get everything that you wanted? Is there some more that you would have liked to have seen in the Book of Boba Fett? Let us know in the comments below. Also, be sure to check out some of our other reviews. We got lots of other Star Wars themed stuff. Also, some of our other fandoms, specifically Star Trek too. For you Star Trek fans out there, we have new movie reviews, flashback movie reviews, TV series, and we also have deeper dive discussions.
Should have wore a Star Trek shirt. What was I thinking? But of course, also make sure to go check us out on Facebook if you haven't already. We post the day before on Facebook what's coming out next on YouTube. If you don't have Facebook, don't worry about it. Posting videos on a schedule. New videos every Monday and Thursday. For now, I'm Randall here with No Market Media. See everyone next time.
And I'm Matt. Have a good day, everyone. Next time on No Market Media. Please consider checking out some of our other videos.